Sincere greetings to all our precious and faithful viewers. As we spend these few minutes with you on this program, we want to help you prepare for future events that are going to take place in the coming years ahead. One such event is global warming, which is the gradual heating of Earth's surface, oceans, and atmosphere caused by human activity. Jesus, in the book of Matthew, chapter 24, verses 6 and 8, says, Ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that ye are not alarmed. These things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these things are the beginning of birth pains. We are living in perilous times. Choices will keep you updated with what is happening. Let your faith in God rise above fear of the future. I'll say it again. Let your faith in God rise above fear of the future. We love you. We want you to know that God loves you. And may He continue to bless you and beautiful Guyana. So again, we say to you a hearty welcome. Thanks.
Last week we started the important discussion on climate change, and I think we cited some significant things that is going to happen as a result of climate change. We talked about, as we heard Pastor Singh just made mention of, famine. We talked about damage to the ozone layer, which ultimately will result in global warming and droughts. And so basically the world is in shambles. And apparently we are not seeing that. And it would appear that we are conscious of hastening what is to be by our very actions. You know, we could cause something to move faster than it's supposed to move at because of our behavior, because of our actions. And we talked about how we utilize the forests, deforestation. Persons want to get ahead of each other. Nations sit down and they sign the documents saying that we will not do this and we will not do that, and ask other nations to withhold the process of industrialization and what have you, while they proceed to move in that direction, because everybody wants an edge. And so there is no genuine agreement about anything. People sign papers, make statements, but there's no genuine agreement. And therefore, that kind of posture only will serve to hasten what is inevitable. And therefore, we still have to live in this world at this time. And therefore, until that time comes when the scripture actually talks about the end, we still have a responsibility to live and conduct ourselves in a certain manner, in a certain fashion. And therefore, we want to continue to discuss this whole issue of climate change, which actually can impact global warming too, because climate change fundamentally has to do with the climate. It's different from weather. Weather changes from time to time. Climate has to do more long term. Those who are steep in geography will tell you that climate is very prolonged period of time. And so based upon how we treat with the environment, we could very well find that global warming could occur because of damaging to the ozone layer as a result of the release of gases in the air, that monoxides and different gases and so on. So we want to continue this discussion today as we discuss the whole notion of climate change. Gentlemen.
Are these things beyond the reach, beyond the responsibility of men? Could you speak to that? do you believe that mankind, as we live upon the face of the earth, if we are irresponsible, what you have described could continue and even worsen?
Yes, Bishop. I believe how we treat with the environment, because we have lots of scientists who know, they know what is going to happen as a result of our behavior. Notwithstanding, the scripture is very clear that a time will come when the world has to come to an end. But also we have data also which tells us, even from a secular perspective, you could imagine that how we treat with the environment could actually hasten what is going to happen. And therefore, I believe how mankind treats with the environment is very important. Like I said earlier, people want to get ahead of our, for example, we have kept our forests intact, and our forests would have contributed to the balance of the atmosphere in terms of carbon dioxide and oxygen, that kind of balance. Because if you have a world with strictly carbon dioxide, there's no oxygen, so we'll die. And so if you keep cutting the trees and for example, mining industries releasing chemicals, cyanide in the water and all these things, we are only contributing more to our demise. So I believe, yes, that how we treat with the environment as a people has a lot to do with how long we will survive.
Well, Robert Asano will tell you the question is for a country that is not industrialized, how now shall we live? You have forests, you have minerals, and how shall we live if we only pay attention? Could somebody talk to that?
Yes, Bishop, there is a talk. UN, as we know, they do a lot of charters, good charters, generally most of the time. And as you know, there's a charter of sustainability goals, and there's 17 different charters. They're aiming to achieve a certain level of climate, of how should I put it, of a clean atmosphere by the year 2030, and they're more to go into the year 2050 and so. So there are charters that the authorities are working towards. Now the question is, are the countries or are the businesses adhering to these charters, and are they adhering in a fast enough time and a rapid enough time? So that is the way I think we do need to go. I do agree with those charters as it relates to sustainability goals. We need to cut down the amount of emissions that we use. However, we know the larger, more developed countries, for them to produce their power or electricity, for them to produce and make the large quantities that they produce and ship around the world, such as toys, but maybe even the ships, not maybe, even the ships that we make that go to find oil, that transport containers around the world, these ships and these larger items are made from coal generated power. And coal, as we burn coal, the carbon, it goes back into the atmosphere. It emits this pollutes the atmosphere. That is not good for us. So there's a charter, or there are charters out there that is asking for sustainability goals, but the same developed countries are, so for them to produce, they're burning coal, but they have to mine in a dangerous manner as well, and lives are lost. So it's like a cycle. One arm is saying one thing, and another arm is not really adhering. So when are we going to move to solar power? When are we going to move to wind power? When are we going to move to turbines generating electricity? So I think we require more incentive other than just making charters for countries to move in that direction. Guyana as a nation, you asked earlier about industrialized nations. Yes, industrialized nations now, the same developed countries are moving, some of them are moving to sustainability goals and moving to clean power. And that is a way that we should think that we should seriously consider moving towards as well. So yes, sustainability.
And Pastor Kurt, I really admire that point that you made, because soon to be writer mentioned that there's a difference between uniformity and unity, and when it comes to beating or managing within an environment like this, it's important for us to not just look the same. Our solutions can't always look the same, or that might not be the most efficient tool for us to use. But once we focus on unity, which means joining together, figuring out the best solutions that work for our specific areas, that could help us to produce a better effect overall. And my push is not really to stop it or anything like that, because in Guyana's position, I don't believe that we're large enough to really make a change, a global impact like that. However, I think one of the greatest things that we could do is work towards managing and adjusting our system so that we could survive and exist and evolve through this process. So I believe that we need to understand that there's a difference between uniformity and unity.
When we think about these, the implications of our behavior, of our action in the earth, we have just, as a nation, celebrated 52 years as a republic. Unbelievable. And let's keep what we've been discussing in the background, and at any time we can speak to it. But Dr. Lee, would you care to reflect on 52 years? I think you were a little older than that. Or you might be younger. Could you reflect?
Yes, thanks, Bishop. I'm much older than 52. But gaining Republican status in 1970, February 23rd, 1970, was significant because it was a signal to the world that by Republican status, we were severing political ties in a more holistic manner than independence. And we were saying to the world that we have come of age and we can manage our own affairs. So our Republican status was significant. But there are two important issues I want to touch quickly on. The involvement of the naming of the festivity, which we now call Mashimani. And we should remember the efforts of the JCs of the South, or the greater JCs of Mackenzie, which is now Linden, and the part played by late Reverend Fitcow in terms of coining that words from his Arawak root. There was a group of Arawaks who were living in Malali, the upper Demra River, and he had some linkage or lineage to them. And so the coinage of the word celebration after hard work. There's also Mr. Hamilton, who also played a part of it, Basil Butcher, who was the chairman of that committee. So the festivity that we now call Mashimani had the genesis in the part played by the Reverend Fitcow, who we should know was Assemblies of God pastor. So he played that role. The other thing is that when we became a republic in 1970, it marked also 207 years after we had the Berbice Slave Rebellion, which started on the 23rd of February, 1763. And so here we, in the case of coffee, as we say, breaking the chains of oppression and all of that for us to have freedom. And here we had in 207 years after the Cooperative Republic of Guyana being established, coffee being named our national hero, and also on the economic side, we had the minting of the coffee dollar, which we don't see much about. We don't see much in circulation now. But I have a few that I am not willing to part with. But I just want to point to the significance. But to put it all together, the celebration, 52 years, celebrating the celebration after hard work, it's a message that we should still embrace as a country. hard work. We still have a good way to go to build this nation and to make it, as we say in one of our national songs, God's golden city, which will never grow old. So we have quite a lot of work to do. So from Mashomani, from Republican status, we can learn so much to work together as a people and to make this nation not only Greenland of Guyana, but Great Land of Guyana.
Well, Dr. Lee, you get me more and more excited when I hear you talk about it. I'm so happy that Mashomani is more than just a party, more than just a festivity. It has an origin of recognizing and celebrating hard work. And look at where it started. And it points for me to the resilience and the ability of us as a people to play our part on the international stage. And not just to live a comfortable life, but to be able to mark our names in the register of the international stage. And I want to tie what was being said before about climate change and our celebration to this whole desire and the ability of us to make our mark as a people. We are not able to change everything in the world, but surely we have a stage, we have a platform, we have a role to play, and we can surely do that and do that well. And it goes beyond just whining and partying and these different kinds of shows. It's more than that. It is us as a people developing an identity of hard work and success, and the willingness to pause to say thanks and to celebrate over that success.
We need to re-examine the concept of celebration after hard work. The celebrating is not just celebrating. We don't want to descend into a mindset of always celebrating. We have to have the other part, hard work. We have to rediscover what it is to do hard work. I just remembered that I traveled twice, I think, to Malali up the Demerara River at the invitation of the late Bishop Basil Compton Smart. And it was quite an experience going through the rocks in the river and to reach our destination. And for the first time, I saw folk that I had never seen before. And some of our indigenous brethren with what appeared to me to be green eyes or a gray that is quite different. And their community was well established, and the work among the brethren there well established. And so we have a culture of hard work. Those men and women, all four parents, they worked hard. And perhaps whenever we come to this time, we must reflect and encourage our young people. This thing is not just about partying, but it is about celebrating hard work, that we bend our backs and we get things done. And it's an amazing, but after 2 years, how do you think the Republic is faring?
We were named in 1970 a cooperative republic, the only cooperative republic in the world. And I think sometimes in the celebration, we tend to overlook that the importance of the word cooperate. And, coming out of after 1970, we had the development or the establishment of quite a lot of cooperative. You heard about cooperative villages. You heard about cooperative credit union. The whole drive was to get us to understand the significance of hard work and working together. Because as we pool our resources, I'm just not here talking about finances. I'm talking about ideas. I'm talking about our skills and all of that. As we pool them together, we are able to achieve so much. Because when you go back to the concept that the Amerindians applied, persons came from different areas in the Amerindian community, and they worked together to achieve a specific objective. And when the objective was achieved, then they celebrated. And if we are to extend that nationally, I mean, there are quite a lot that we can do if we work together, pooling ideas together. I mean, let me give one example. I mean, in the Amerindian community, when they build a benab, I mean, you find that somebody has the idea of the shape and how it should be built. But in order to get it done, others might have ideas to build it also, but they are prepared to subsume it, to suppress it, and to allow the idea of this great construction to be done. I mean, Martin is here, and one of the largest benabs in this country is in the village of Anai. I mean, he saw it, and you know, I mean, its manifestation lends to the point that if we work together, we can achieve something magnificent and great. So it's not just celebration. I think we need to infuse back in this country, in this nation, the idea of cooperation, working together. I remember at school we had co-ops, we had school co-ops. And so I'm saying if we return to some of those ideas, the republic is assured, and it will grow from strength to strength.
We still have co-ops, Dr. Lee. It's still in progress. But the thing about it, and I just want to support what you've said with the Amerindians, where this thing actually originated from. They were strategic in terms of hunting, and in terms of planting, farming, and so on. And so when they reaped and they hunted and they got their meats and so on, they came together and celebrated in their villages, groups, and whatever. And that is important though, because if you celebrate, you spend a lot of time celebrating without working, you'll go broke. And you don't have to look long and hard to see that. So if you keep spending most of your time celebrating, because to celebrate, you have to have resources, you have to have something to keep the celebration going. And if that is amiss, it means eventually you'll go broke. But like the question was asked, I believe that this in our society, we are not void of ideas. We're not void of skill sets and the like. I think what we need is a genuine desire to achieve and to work together. The resources are there and people have the capacity to work, but if you work in the context of your own self achievement, your own self-aggrandizement, whatever, everything is about self, you can't get that kind of national impact. And so all the players in the different facets, organizations, whatever, if only we could really come together in a serious way, we could really become a nation to be reckoned with. I believe that Guyana has what it takes, but this thing seems to be bothering us, the whole issue of division and the deception, and even this and these things are still there. But I think if we remove those issues that are plaguing us, we could actually advance as a nation, because I think we have what it takes. I remember one regional chairman used to say to me, "Young Hudson, we are not void of ability. He said what we are void of is the will. The will, and the will is something else. If people will to do something, it will happen. The issue is the willingness is never really there, at least in a serious way."
I'd like to make a comparison between where we are and what at least 7 of us on this program this evening, we witnessed. We went to Israel. And I would like, with the closing time we have, I saw a kind of corporatism manifested in that society. I think it's called the kibbutz, and where these folks came together and literally built anything, everything. And I was just thinking about Guyana. As we went to the top of the mountain in the valley, they accomplished these things using that system of cooperating. Anybody like to comment on that?
Yes, Bishop. What what I saw in Israel on my first trip. Note I said first. What I saw there gives me hope. It gives me inspiration that it is possible. And then going back to what we said, or it is possible that we can achieve so much if we cooperate, if we work together. And they are, if we go back to our some of our ancestry, the villages that were established after 1834, after 1838, were established through cooperatism. People worked together. Resources they saved, and so we had villages established. Victoria, we had Buxton, all those villages we had established because of that same spirit that came from people who were oppressed. Now we are free, 1966, 1970. If that spirit can be rebirthed again, then I think we can achieve quite a lot. So we have the example. So we just need to follow that good example that our ancestors left for us.
Martin, Joshua, you guys are young. You saw the kibbutz.
What I will say, Bishop, is that when people decide to cooperate, a nation where there's so much diversity, so much controversy that surrounds it, the kibbutz is an example of a people that decided to work together to be innovative, and they were able to do what others may have thought of to be impossible.
And thank you very much, Joshua. Thank you very much, team and Choices. We were able to come to you today from different parts of the world: rainy Guyana, cold Switzerland, frigid United States. And here we are saying to you, let us continue to direct our energies towards uplifting ourselves, our neighbors, and our nation. God bless you.
We thank you for joining us on Choices today. Remember, you can join us at First Assembly, LNP Durban Street, Workmanville, Georgetown, Guyana, for any of our special services. I'm Celicia on behalf of the set, reminding you that your whole life is the sum of your choices. God bless you.